followed by an open floor discussion. So we expect and request your active participation in the open floor discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome again to the Industrial Safety Forum that we've set up for today. Thanks. I won't reintroduce everybody on the panel. I think Preeti has introduced everybody and set the scene for how we're going to handle this session. So I think just to start off with, as previous speakers have alluded to, and it will also become a lot clearer as we go through the day, the creation of a safe working environment involves the efforts of many different actors. An international safety framework aims to establish a structure that can coordinate all these multiple interventions in a way that delivers safety for workers in industry in Bangladesh. These multiple interventions include things such as policies, legislations, action plans for their implementation, which we've heard from the previous session. We've heard a number of comments related to those. It also involves an adequate Bangladesh Labour Act and labour rules, which we've heard from the BEF person. We've heard a bit about that. It involves also safety measures built into the building codes for the buildings that we use for industry, work practices that incorporate the learning that's been gathered internationally for decades over the different processes of work, and also the provision of proper equipment, and also training of safety officers, research, and guidance documents. So just to stress again to what this process involves. I mean, we're looking at the role of the public institutions in this session to promote occupational safety and health in industry. We've got to start with, and I think this was also mentioned by Mr. Kabir from DEF, you've got to start with safe buildings. You can't ensure safety at work if the infrastructure in which they work isn't safe. Sorry, I've just been given a note here to say that before we get into our presentations, we're going to invite Mr. Bertrand from Dhaka, from OECD, to try again and see if we get a better connection to be able to present his presentation. So I'll just finish here, but then before we go into the panel discussion, we'll give Mr. Dhaka a chance to convey the messages that he wanted to. So here, then we see that it starts then with the building of a safe infrastructure in which to work. In Bangladesh, we have the BNBC, which sets out the safety measures for structures, fire. What we need to understand then is these measures need to be implemented before the building is occupied. It's very difficult to introduce anything substantial on the structure of the building once that building is occupied. For fire safety, the measures to ensure that if there's a fire, people can get out of the building safely. Those are also under the Bangladesh National Building Control Authority, and they need to be implemented before the building is occupied. Fire does have other aspects which need to be attended to later on. And then the safe installation of systems before occupation as well, for emergency warning systems, firefighting systems, that type of thing. And these would be, in the current system, these should be all controlled through the occupational license process. So once the occupational license is granted, we assume that all of those issues have been attended to. Then, still before the activity starts in the building, the other things that need to be done which also need to consider the safety aspects. And that's the layout for planned, the layout planning for optimum workflow, safety and comfort. We heard a number of speakers refer to safety, quality, productivity. They are related and need to be addressed to a large extent even before the activity begins. Plant installations need to have introduce their safety requirements, such as boiler enclosures, cutoffs for gas, and other safety precautions. These generally are governed, are regulated through the boiler safety licenses, which should also be done before the activity starts, and then the industrial license, which investigates or assesses the industrial layout before the building is occupied and reviews that on an annual basis. Then once the building is occupied, then the main responsibility shifts to the employer. Okay? And it's important to note that the work safety culture in any enterprise starts with top management. If they have a responsible attitude to safety, that filters down. But we also need to recognize that they can't implement that without good collaboration from the workers. The workers are the eyes and ears on the floor in the industry. They exposed to the hazards. They can see what they are more closely, and they can suggest ways on how to avoid or deal with those hazards. I won't go into that any further because that's the subject of our second technical session. So let's go and focus a bit more on public institutions of the workplace. So this is one area of occupational safety and health, but that itself has a very multi-pronged approach. So we can mention a number of the activities which are most significant, and they've been mentioned in the inaugural session: the development of policy documents and the national action plans to implement those policies, the enforcement of minimum OSH standards contained in the Bangladesh Labour Act, and then the monitoring and the condition of workplaces via the labour inspection process. The labour inspection process is partly an enforcement process, but it's also a good mechanism to gain data on the conditions in factories so they can start identifying common issues within a sector, common issues across sectors, and which would then go into informing what sort of research is necessary to attend to the conditions that prevail in Bangladesh in industry. There is a lot of information internationally on different aspects of occupational safety and health, but often they need to be localized to be more effective. Then the government would be involved with advice, training, awareness raising about the OSH issues, and that awareness raising could start right at preschool stage, go through schools, universities, before people even get into industry. So that's another role that government could take. And then developing of guidelines, sector-specific guidelines, and for industry as a whole, reacting to new issues, such as we saw in the last few years, the reaction to the pandemic, creating guidelines to apply across all sectors for a new hazard in the workplace. So I've just put up this slide here just to give a bit of an overview of the panorama that we're looking at, the whole structure there. You can see I've mentioned 4 different ministries, all of which contribute to occupational safety and health in the workplace. We can start with the Ministry of Housing and Public Works. There's the HBRI under there, which developed the building codes. The building codes need to have the safety measures specified there to create the infrastructure around which the workplace the work takes place. Then under the same ministry, there's Rajuk, who are the Building Control Authority, and they would be the responsible authority for looking at those structural and fire safety issues as you prepare the premises for occupation. Then we can go to the Ministry of Housing, the Ministry of Home Affairs, under which the Fire Safety Service operates. Fire service is mainly responsible for fire prevention, firefighting, emergency plans within the industry, and also rescue if some of the other measures are not effectively implemented. There are rescue operations needed. So that falls under another ministry. Then the Ministry of Industries, the boiler safety license falls under them. The use of chemicals, handling, transport, all chemical-related safety is under the Ministry of Industries. And then the main responsibilities lie with the Ministry of Labour and Employment. And there we have DIFE, who run the labour inspection process. We heard earlier that they've developed an industrial safety unit within DIFE, which with the intention of having a group within DIFE who are more aware of what these building safety issues are, so that they can spot them through the labour inspection process. Under DIFE as well, we have the NOSHTRI, the Occupational Safety and Health Training and Research Institute, and that's through the information they collect through the labour inspectorate process. That should feed into the NOSHTRI to look into what training needs to be developed, what research needs to be done. So if we look at that whole panorama, I think what we want to explore today is how are these government structures, how can they be trusted to deliver on safety for workers in the workplace? I just mentioned a few issues that apply to Bangladesh that we could discuss, and hopefully they'll come out and we can have some suggestions on how to deal with them. But the multiple ministries are sharing responsibilities in the industry. So one of the big questions is how much of a common understanding is there? Do all the ministries understand exactly what their role is and what other ministries' role is? And how well are those roles coordinated if they are properly understood? We've seen in some areas in Bangladesh, there are overlapping responsibilities. And if you have overlapping responsibilities, there'll always be different approaches by the different agencies, which would always impact negatively on safety. And one of the examples we can point to here is the fire safety in the regulation of fire safety falls under REJUC and under FSCD, and during the construction process or the design and construction process, they might have different approaches to that. And I think that it often happens, which causes confusion and impacts negatively on safety. Then if there's a lack of enforcement in one area by some agency, who is responsible for rectifying that? And we've seen a clear example in Bangladesh there where the Ministry of Labour and Employment is spending a lot of resources in dealing with building safety issues, which should not really be under its jurisdiction. But so is it the best way to deal with rectifying these issues, or can we find a better way to do it? Something to explore today as well. And then, could collaboration with the private sector improve the delivery of occupational safety and health in industry? The example we have in Bangladesh is the agreement between the government and the RSC in the RMG sector. They're looking to ways to use that private sector initiative to supplement government's efforts in monitoring building safety issues in the RMG industry. So could that be extended to further? And then we know that employers need to be made aware and held accountable for their OSH duties under the Bangladesh Labour Act. At the moment, it's mainly enforcement via the labour inspection process which addresses that. But you can't create safe conditions in the workplace just by enforcement. That needs to be reinforced by employers' organisations and other support to it. So let's explore how we can support the labour inspectorate process to bring occupational safety and health to this area. So just to end off with then, safety and work of the workplace results from many interventions, both in the workplace once the activity starts, and beyond, before the activity starts, and other players contributing to that. And an industrial safety framework, which is the topic of today's forum, is needed to structure all these multiple interventions, to direct them into, and focus them into the right areas. So I just end off with a quote there, because in one of the banners we should see that one of the typical messages given when we talk about OSH is to build a preventative safety cultures at the workplace. And when I was preparing this, I thought maybe I would change that and say, first build safe workplaces, and then with preventative safety cultures in them. So I'll end off there, and before we go to the panel then, for the posing questions to the panel and getting their response, we'll go over to Mr. Bertrand de Gallia again from OECD. Is he ready to present again?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you, Mr. de Gallia.
Thank you very much for saving some connection. I will not turn on my camera. And can you show can I leave you, show my slides, please? Maybe it will help.
Mr. Bertrand, we are
Yes.
displaying the slides from the venue. You can just continue. We are starting from slide 3 as we discussed over the Zoom.
Very good. Very good. I cannot see the screen, unfortunately. Mentioned some major accidents that are still happening in many regions of the world. And then with the next click, I would also underline that recovering from industrial accidents recovering from industrial accidents sets back development gains, takes time, and is expensive. And it's also well known that many places still suffer from events that happened years before. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next slide, please. It is very important for all of us involved in industrial safety to have a clear view and accurate information on industrial accidents to be able to face the situation, even if very unpleasant and fearing. However, this is the base. I'm really sorry for all this disruption. The first database mentioned here, we know it very well at OECD because it's developed in collaboration with UNECE and the EC Joint Research Center. And in this place, for instance, you can find some information on recent cases having happened in your country. Next slide, please. So some basic messages and principles that correspond to what is needed for building national safety frameworks. The challenges are the following. It is important for the country to develop and maintain a high level of safety, also to raise awareness of the risks and cost of the accidents at higher policy level, industry, operators, civil servants, and society, and to make industrial accident prevention a priority. This is key. In a way, when the accident happens, it's too late. We can try to be prepared and to respond to it, of course, and that's important to do so when developing the national safety framework. But prevention is the main priority. And also this prevention, preparedness and response should also integrate the natural disaster massive. Next slide, please. Some key principles that correspond to the collective efforts needed for building any national safety framework. Of course, it involves many stakeholders, public and private sectors and civil society, and this was underlined already this morning. You also need to coordinate legislations from different areas to develop them when they are not existing, to enforce and to control. And as said by a previous speaker, sometimes they can correspond to different cases corresponding to different sectors. Then guidance and practical tools are needed and should be developed where missing. And then growing and strengthening the national safety framework will rely on the lessons that can be learned from past accidents. Next. And as many speakers before me has underlined, it's important to build a safety culture, and this has started in Bangladesh through a wide and constant resource effort. And it is worth. We have seen at the OECD that we have proven benefits for having solid and efficient national safety frameworks, resulting in the number of accidents reduced and with lesser impact. Next slide, please. Some main principles that we have identified at OECD when revising our guiding principles for chemical accident prevention, preparedness and response. First, it's absolutely essential for the country to prioritize the prevention of industrial accident risks and preparedness and response that correspond to the country's situation. It's impossible to start and do everything at the same time. And it is a step-by-step approach. But first, the inventory is absolutely necessary and a decision made at policy level for this prioritization. Next slide, please. Then hazards should be identified and understood, and the risk derived from them understood. Hazards can come, as shown on the pictures, from many sources. It can be pipelines, it can be explosion, it can be risk of natural disasters. All this should be identified clearly for understanding the risk of industrial accidents. Locally, nationally, regionally, all these different layers are important. Next slide, please. It's also important for the national safety framework to be able to communicate widely and to favor a solid communication, frequent, regular, on all aspects of the industrial accident prevention, preparedness, and response. Next slide, please. And also to cooperate among the various stakeholders to facilitate the effective industrial accident prevention. And this is the forum we are in today is exactly showing how working together towards the same goal. Next, please. Once the general elements of the safety framework are defined with clear priorities, be developed for the safety to become a practice and to be implemented effectively. So these figures components contribute at the end to the success of the whole safety management system. Next, please. In the OECD guiding principles developed by countries, specific principles are assigned to industry on the one hand and others to public authorities on the other hand. And starting here to summarize the role of the industry, we can underline the three elements on these slides. It's important for the industry to promote a mature safety culture throughout the enterprise, and also to establish safety management systems and regulatory review, and regularly review their implementation. Also to utilize inherently safer technology principles. And this is true when designing a new industrial site or when, and as well as when operating hazardous and from one company to another, it can sometimes imply a large number of sites, industrial sites established in many countries. So the complexity can be very different from one case to another. Same between different sectors, it can also be different. Next slide, please. To continue with the role of the industry, it's also important to identify and manage the risks arising from change. We have noted that the change, important change occurring in operation or in distribution of the products or in governance of the industry can lead to some additional risk of accidents. Then in the middle, it's important to prepare and plan for any industrial accident that may occur. And also, of course,
Okay, thank you. I think, I believe Bernard was reaching the end of his presentation there. Unfortunately, we got cut off just before he finished it, but I believe that was his last or second last slide. So I think we should move on. We have the slides, and we'll tell Bernard where he cut off and ask him if he wants to deliver any messages which we can communicate from the podium later. So I think let's then move on to the next part of this session, which is we've designed it as a question and answer session from the different participants to draw out a few issues in the issues which have been discussed up till now. We'll start with Mr. Mohammed Arifur Rahman, Director, Deputy Secretary of BIDA Investment Development Authority, BIDA, under the Prime Minister's Office. And the question we want to put to Mr. Rahman is, know that a new BIDA initiative has been launched to ensure industrial safety of the workers in all enlisted factories and establishments other than RMG. And we heard earlier that it has recently completed the initial inspections related to safety measures in over 5,000 factories. So I think what we'd like to hear from Mr. Rahman is how will the results of these assessments, how will they be used to move forward and improve industrial safety? And then part of that question is, how does BIDA view this going forward? Do we see BIDA as this platform that's been set up recently? Could that be a model for coordinating the efforts of all ministries in going forward from here in future? You saw the sketch which I put up there showing all the different links, the different pieces of that puzzle. Do they see themselves as a start of something which could address all those issues? If you can just address it from the mic at your table, and try and keep your responses to within the allocated 5 minutes. I'll warn you when we have 1 minute left. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, thank you very much. I would like to thank CPD and ILO to invite me here. Welcome everyone to the technical session on role of public institutions in developing industrial safety framework. So, you know very well that BIDA, Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, has recently involved as a coordinating body to ensure the safety in industrial establishments. In order to prevent the fire accidents in factories and industrial establishments across the country, the Prime Minister Office on 15th July 2021 has been instructed to the BIDA as a leader to coordinate with FBCCI, BGMEs and all other government and non-government authorities, immediately inspected all industrial and commercial organizations to review the actual situations and formulate some recommendations to develop or what to do. You know, at the same time, the government has formed a 24-member national committee by convening Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, Honorable Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Prime Minister, to prevent accident and ensure safe working environment in factories, industries and commercial establishments. The committee will take necessary action after reviewing the observations and recommendations received during the inspection in order to prevent the accidents and ensure safe working environment in factories, industrial and commercial establishments. After that, standard operating procedure, checklist and priority-based factory list has been prepared for inspection of factories in the light of appropriate instructions of the Prime Minister Office. A total number of 108 combined inspections teams were formed to inspect the factories across the country. Initially, a total number of 5,206 factories were inspected till March 2022. The inspection data is currently being analyzed, and the final recommendation will be forwarded to the National Committee for further decision. Similarly, further action will be taken on the subject of combined inspection as per the decision and direction from the National Committee. It is hoped that effective measures will be taken to enhance the capacity of the concerned government agencies, including DIFE, to working the environment as well as amend the existing laws where necessary, I think. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raman. Thank you for that. And the next panelist who we're going to ask to comment is Lieutenant Colonel Zile Raman, Director of Operations and Maintenance of the Department of Fire Services and Civil Defense for the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, Lieutenant Colonel Raman, we know that the fire license and the fire safety plan of all types of buildings are approved by FSCD through regular inspections of workplaces. Recently, we've been observing very frequent fire incidents at mills, factories, warehouses, leading to multiple fatalities. FSCD's main role is in fire prevention, firefighting and rescue, but most occupants should be able to escape out of the building before having to be rescued. And as we know, fires are bound to happen despite everyone's best efforts. But what do you think, from the fire services point of view, could be done to better avoid the fatalities in industrial premises when fires do break out? Over to you.
Thank you. At first, I would like to thank both ILO and CPD for arranging such a very nice and demanding safety forum technical session. So I want to start my speech with some good news, and then I can share some of the bad experience as well. First of all, you'll be happy to know that the Bangladesh government has emphasized the safety and security matter. They have taken it very seriously, and as part of that, the Prime Minister has already announced that every Upazila of Bangladesh will have a fire service civil defense station, so that at Upazila level or union level we can render our service to the people of Bangladesh, and especially the industrial zones as well. And secondly, our developing partners such as the World Bank, then UNDP, then COICA and JICA, they are supporting us. They are providing us very high-tech equipments. They are providing various types of training so that we can enhance our capability, our skill, and we can capable of using the very high-tech modern equipments. So as part of the Bangladesh government, we are doing our training, which is very high standard, and also we are possessing very high standard of equipments. Besides, to provide all sort of facilities to the applicants of the Bangladesh and also the foreign nationals, the government of Bangladesh has started the one-stop service concept, and we have already carried out the MOU with some of the government agencies such as the BIDA, BEZA, BEBZA, And in future, we'll have our MOU with the high-tech parks and some other organization. And as part of the Digital Bangladesh project, now from the home, any Bangladeshi applicant can apply for fire safety license as well as the fire safety plan. So all these are the good news, and I'm sure the citizen of the Bangladesh will be highly benefited in future. But at the same time, we have some shortcomings as well. As I was telling you that we have received lots of high-tech equipments which are mainly originated from the Germany and Europe's, but those vehicles are very big in size as well. So we know once the industrialization is going on, so more number of people will be working in a very small confined space, very high-tech electric and electronics equipment will be used, and there will be a very high flow of electricity. So all these situations, all these three factors makes a small space or an industry very vulnerable against any sort of disaster. And if the industry is not ready to support their own workers, so this disaster may cause the loss of lives at very high number. At the same time, there will be a very high loss of properties as well. And I want to just cite a small example that Hashim food industry, just before 3 months or 4 months, there was a fire incident, and in one single fire incident, total 49 workers died. And it is not at all actually expected that from a single industry, in one single incident, within 2 to 3 hours time period, around 50 or close to 50 people will die. And if you, I'm sure you have read all the news in the newspaper that the floor manager prevented those 49 workers to go down and take the safety measures. And this reflect that we are actually, in most of the cases in the industrial environment, they are not ready for safety and security. They are not trained. And as a result, actually, this type of fatalities takes place. Again, I would like to draw your attention in 3 major districts of Bangladesh. That is the Dhaka, Gazipur, and Narayanganj. And I'm sure that CPD do lots of research. They have lots of good data that among all the districts of Bangladesh, these 3 districts are very fall in the very high priority district because all our industries, they are located in these 3 districts. And only the export processing zone or government-owned various industrial zone, those industries has very good fire safety. But other than that, all the industries, small and big, which are beyond this export processing zone or the industrial zone, their safety level is not good.
Could you wrap up in 1 minute?
Okay. And finally, again, just with a last example, I'm going to finish that. If I talk about my capital city, which is very important for a country, half of the capital city fall within the old Dhaka, that is Dhaka, under the Dhaka South City Corporation, and half of the capital city fall within the Dhaka North City Corporation. And I'm sure you know about the state of old Dhaka, where the roads are so narrow that in case of a major disaster, whether it is an earthquake or it is a fire incident, even our own vehicles, small vehicles will not be able to go inside the old Dhaka, and it is very difficult to carry out a firefighting and evacuation operation. So it is not only the responsibility does not fall only the government agencies. Along with the government agencies, among the private sectors, if the town is not well planned, if the industrial zone or individual small industry is not well planned or well set, it will cause loss of lives and loss of property. And it is going to give a very negative signal in the international arena because we want to attract more investment and we want to create a very positive image. But all this, once there is no fire safety and there is an incident related to fire safety, it will give a wrong signal among our partners and the foreign investors. So we should be very much careful, especially those who are the owner of the industry. They should be careful that government has implemented lots of plan, so it is their responsibility to implement those plan, and as per that plan and as per the fire safety which is given from the fire service or Rajuk or BIDA or BEBZA, they should implement it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menon. Thanks for sharing those thoughts on your experience in the industry. Thank you. Okay, our next panelist is Engineer M.A. Manan from the City Inspectorate of Boilers, from the Office of the Chief Inspector of Boilers, Minister of Industries. What I want to ask Mr. Manan is, recently a bill titled the Boilers Bill 2022 was passed by the National Parliament. So what are the key features of this bill, and do you think that the introduction of this is going to be able to improve the safety and security in workplaces? And additional to that is, do you think that without having magistrate powers, it will be difficult to enforce this bill? And how does a boiler authority, how do you view your coordination with other agencies under different ministries like MOL, DIFI, FSCD, Rajuk? Over to you, Mr. Mama.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank Mr. George Fuller, Chief Technical Advisor, ILO, and distinguished guest and participant. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone. I welcome you all to participate this program, Industrial Safety Forum, which is held first time in Bangladesh with help of ILO and CPD. First of all, I am grateful that I got this opportunity to introduce the Boiler Act 2022, which has recently gazetted on 11th April 2022, and 100 years old Boiler Act 1923 has eliminated. We all are very concerned about all kind of safety in all sectors of industry, basically occupational safety and health. According to the Boiler Act 2022, Section 28, 29 and 30 provide for preventing boiler accident and ensure safety, and Section 44 are fearing punishment of violation of the Act. In this technical session, some pointer mentioned here about layout plan and licensing. In Boiler Act 2022, there is a provision for boiler installation layout plan, boiler house, and plan for optimum workflow. Due to Boiler Act, every boiler need to take registration and certificate before operation. Besides this, operator have to take operating license as occupational license to operate boilers, and every 5 years they have to renew the license. Some question is here, what are the key features of the bill? The key features of the Boiler Bill 2002 is to reduce the risk of boiler accident, increase awareness on standard boiler use, manufacture, import and export of standard boilers, and ensure safety in use and operation of boiler, also safe working environment in industry. By implementing properly Boiler Act 2002, it will ensure safety and security in workplaces. In article number 29 of 2 of Boiler Act provides for departmental action against boiler inspector or any other employee for boiler accident due to negligence of their responsibility. Thus, the boiler inspector and concerned person will sincere to their responsibility. I think without having magistracy power, it not would be difficult to enforce the new boiler bill properly, because in accordance with Article number 27(1), the Boiler Act 2002-22, boiler can be shut down by the empowered officer or person instantly. In Article number 50 also provides for the application of the Mobile Court Act 2009. The provision of coordination and assistance with law enforcement agencies, other government offices and statutory authority has been kept under Article number 27(2) of the Boiler Act 2022, and mentioned authorities will be obliged to provide assistance in this regard. In order to ensure proper implementation of Boiler Act 2022 and to assure secure working environment in industry, the Office of the Chief Inspector of Boilers has been organizing meetings and workshops with boiler manufacturers, indentors and boiler operators, and boiler users and different agencies. There are also plans of building a safety network by providing proper training courses organized by assigned training institute to the boiler user, manufacturer and operator.
Can you wrap up in 1 minute?
Yes. Thanks to ILO and CPD for inviting me and give opportunity to say something here and to introduce the Boiler Act 2022. I would like to thank also for organizing this program and established the Industrial Safety Forum. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. Nandan. Thank you. Our next panelist that we want to address is Engineer Ujwal Malik, Chief Engineer for Implementation in Rajuk, the Ministry of Housing and Public Works. So the question that we want to pose to you is, Rajuk, sometimes with other local government authorities, are the responsible authority for ensuring that the Bangladesh National Building Code requirements are in place before granting an occupancy license. In Bangladesh, the building safety is often found to be at risk due to various issues. What do you feel is the role of Rajuk where buildings are found by FSCD or DIFE or other agencies? They find that they have been occupied without having all the building control measures in place. What do you feel is Rajuk's responsibility for that and for rectifying that situation?
Thank you. Especially International Labour Organization and CPD organized for the first Industrial Safety Forum and invited me for some few words. Actually, Rajuk mandate for these three main role. Actually, planning, development and development control in the deemed DP area, around 1,520 square kilometer. The development control is our main role. You know, any development in development DMDP area need a permission from Rajuk, and as well as before that, fire service and civil defense, DOE, and civil aviation need permission before that. If when they get this permission from others organization, finally Rajuk give the building permission. And after completion their work, Rajuk give occupancy certificate. If any deviation from any building and found by the FSCD and DIFE, Rajuk may request them to remove or change it, and otherwise they cancel their certificate, permission certificate. You know, Bangladesh, Rajuk, BC Act 1952, BNBC 1993, and amended in BNBC 2020 are dated, and B schedule 2008, and it is updating now, and maybe within December 2022 it will be updated, and especially we measure for safety after the because rapid growth in our Dhaka, especially Rana Plaza, Tajrin Fashion, and this is occurred due to we did not follow the standard practice. And in BNBC, one authority may be developed, Bangladesh Building Regulatory Authority. Before that, Rajuk's function for this. Before that, Rajuk's function for the regulatory authority now. So, if any deviation or something, we have a special team headed by the magistrate and a committee. The demolition with the cost bear by the industry owner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Malik, for those comments. And we'll come back to you again for the next round. But before that, our last panelist, which we're going to address now, is Mr. Engineer Farid Ahmad, Joint Inspector General, Safety Section of the Department of Inspection for Factories and Establishments in the Ministry of Labour and Employment. So, Mr. Ahmed, DIFE is responsible for occupational safety and health, not only in the RMG sector, but also in all other sectors with very limited resources. What do you feel could be done to address occupational safety and health more effectively? And as part of the question, we also know that you can't have safe workplaces in buildings that don't meet code requirements. How do you think DIFE should collaborate with other agencies for ensuring that the building safety measures are incorporated before they are occupied? Over to you, Mr. Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, distinguished guest, and thanks, Judge Fowler. I am very pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank ILO and CPD to organize such an event. To ensure occupational safety and health in RMG and non-RMG sector, DIFE is the monitoring and regulatory implementing authority. We are most attentive on export-oriented industries, on compliance issues, but nowadays, to ensure occupational safety and health in the RMG and non-RMG sector, DIFE is working with its capacity. We have very skilled inspector to assess the workplace safety. DIFE have expert on machinery safety, construction safety, chemical safety, ergonomic safety, and we also developed safety guidelines on this area. Still, capacity building on structural safety, fire safety, and electrical safety is going on by the support of ILO RMG project. DIFE has also have good number of trainer on occupational safety and health. We have digitalized inspection checklist giving priority on occupational safety and health. Simply, I like to say DIFE have trained and skilled manpower and very good inspection tools. But without stakeholders' cooperation, it will not be easy to ensure workplace safety. Due to rapid industrialization, number of workplaces increasing day by day. After tobacco incident, DIFE identified 50 most hazardous plastic and chemical factories, and preliminary risk assessment is completed. Follow-up is going on by respective DIG's office. Recently, by the direction of VIDA, DIFE with all other relevant government organizations made assessment 5,200 RMG factories. Moreover, a project is in process in planning ministry for non-RMG factory to assess. DIFE is going to establish a national OSH Training and Research Institute to provide training on OSH for worker and management. Nowadays, a good number of factories were established taking consideration all the safety and health issues, and they developed OSH culture. But in existing many factories, there is inbuilt some issues related to fire, electrical, chemical, and structural safety. We need to assess them, and we need to develop corrective action plan, and we have to address them. So I think DIFE can develop escalation protocol to address all the issues in the non-RMG area, and enforcement to implement the law, and also we think we need to approach sectoral or area-based non-RMG industries to ensure occupational safety and health. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, ILO, to organize this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Okay, we'll go to the second round of questions now, and then we'll open the floor to for questions which you can pose to the panelists at the end of that second round of questions. The second round is going to be the same question to each organization, and the question is, so we've seen in a number of the presentations today that achieving a good standard of safety and health in the industry requires coordinated interventions from a number of different private and public entities. So under an industrial safety framework, the responsibilities of the different stakeholders need to be aligned, coordinated, and enforced. So what's your view of the responsibilities of your agencies, and how do you feel that these could be better integrated into a framework covering other entities as well? So we'll start off again with Mr. Arifur Rahman from BIDA. If you could address that question.
Thanks
first.
again, Mr. Fola. In this regard, I just want to mention here one progress and running activities from BIDA side. You know that a subcommittee convened by the executive chairmen of Bangladesh Investment Development Authority has been constituted to work out a framework of effective coordination of the issues regarding establishment of a separate authority and establishment coordination of the existing authorities for issuing new licenses and issuance of license renewals and all concerned industries through one-stop services to ensure the fire safety prevention, accident and safe working environment. In this regard, we already received written opinions, have already been collected from 10 concerned organizations as a part of the activities of this committee. A working group has been formed under the leadership of a Director General of BIDA to work to this issue. I think it would be much easier to ensure an integrated safety framework in the factory if an implemented authority is formed or service activities are ensured through one-stop services, means OSS, ensuring the active role of BIDA in formulating an integrated safety framework will require also enhancing the overall capacities of the organization, that means BIDA, because the BIDA now working as a coordinating agencies, all other responsible agencies of the government and private organizations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raman. Thank you for that. So I'll go to Lieutenant Colonel Zillaraman and pose the same question. How do you see your the responsibilities of the fire services and how you connect into an integrated approach?
Thank you. Once I talk about the policy level, for example, the Fire Extinguishing Act 2003 or Bangladesh National Building Code. So at policy level, I'm sure that all government organizations, we are in the same line. We are following the same policy, same laws. But once we come to the organization level, there are sort of some confusion. For example, I can say that as we are dealing with the fire safety more as a organization of fire service and civil defense, so there is a definition in Fire Extinguishing Act 2003 regarding the definition of a high-rise building. According to Bangladesh law, it is told that any building beyond 20 meters or having floors more than 6 will be considered as high-rise building. That's means a single building having 7 floors and above will be considered a high-rise building. But another government organization such as Rajuk, so in their paper, it is told that any building beyond having more than 10 floors will be considered as high-rise building. So once a applicant, especially from the capital city of Bangladesh, from Dhaka, because the Rajuk works only in the Dhaka city. So fire service is telling that you must have a fire safety plan once you have a building 7 floors and above. So a normal citizen of Bangladesh going to Rajuk and they are getting the news that they do not need fire safety in their high-rise building. So it creates a confusion among the general citizen of the Bangladesh. And as we know that Dhaka is a highly populated country, highly populated capital city, and around 2 crore people stay in Dhaka city. So a small incident, just I have told you earlier, that a small incident, even in a high-rise building, may cause loss of property as well as a loss of lives. So this type of organizational confusion actually at the end, it hampers the fire safety. So this is number one. And number two, for all the government agencies, actually we always give permits, but in most of the cases we never stop permits. That's mean in most of the cases, a industry or a high-rise building, once they receive a certification regarding fire safety or occupational safety, so after 1 year, once we go for inspection, so we do not fully stop them from their operation because of some obvious reason. Because, for example, if in Dhaka, in old Dhaka, there are lots of industry, and today if I go there and stop all the business, it is going to hamper our economy. So there is a problem whether I do something which hamper our economy, at the same time, how do I balance this fire safety? So there is a problem that we need to address. So in that cases, most of the cases we do compromise. That okay, we give them some warning, which actually the owner of the industry, most of the cases do not follow, and the fire safety remain in a very bad shape. So that is there. And if I do not discuss about the whole Bangladesh, even if I discuss about only the Dhaka, see, the old Dhaka has the same problem since last 50 years. So actually, it is not a topic to be solved or a problem to be solved within a very short period of time. But basing on the organizational differences and as well as the unwillingness on the side of the industrial owners, so it is making the situation more complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Zilla Raman, for sharing that experience of the realities of the situation and also those contradictions, which are exactly the type of things we want to bring out at a forum like this to see how we can address and coordinate those better. Thank you. I'll next turn to Engineer Manam from the Chief Inspector of Boilers to address the same issue about the responsibilities of the Boiler Inspectorate and how they can integrate with other agencies.
Thank you. Thank you. We know boiler is actually a risky machine or device, and almost all factory use the boilers. That's why Boiler Act 1923 established before 100 years in this Indian region. And Office of the Chief Inspector of Boilers works under Ministry of Industry from 1957. But we think this act is very old. That's why recently Boiler Act 2020 has established, and we are trying as early as possible to establish a boiler rule, a special boiler code, so that we can ensure safety and preventing accident of boiler. In this regard, all of the agencies like boiler manufacturer, boiler user, boiler operator, even boiler training institute will enlist it in this act. And boiler board, it is a highly technical board in the Boiler Act 2022. And we are trying to establish so many training institute under Ministry of Industry like BTAC and BSTI to training the boiler user and operator also. And we continuously organize so many awareness program and workshop to the operator and boiler user. I think by implementation this Boiler Act 2022 will prevent the accident and ensure the safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raman. Thanks for that. Then we'll turn next to Rajuk, Chief Engineer of Implementation, Ujwal Malik. Same question then. We understand that Rajak's jurisdiction is just Dhaka district, but within that jurisdiction, where do you see the responsibilities of Rajuk? Where do they lie, and how could they better be integrated with other agents, with other ministries to coordinate health and safety issues?
Rajuk Act for Permission, 1952, BC Act. And after that, 1993, BNBC and updated in 2020. And we follow the BC rule 2008, which is updating now. And there is one question from the Fire Service and Civil Division, Civil Defense, permission for high-rise building which is 6-story or 10-story. You know, as per BNBC, permit from other agencies, the owner shall obtain permit as may be applicable from other concerned agencies relating to building, zoning, grades, sewers, water mains, plumbing, fire safety, signs, blasting, street occupancy, gas, electricity, highways, and other permits required in connection with the proposed work. Before that, when we give the permission, before that, they must obtain permission from other agency like FSCD. And so, if any failure from any inspection by building official, now this is the authorized officer, if a building is found to be unsafe, the building official shall notify the owner of the building and specify the defects thereof. The notice shall require the owner within a stated time either to complete the required repair or improvement or demolish and remove the building or portion thereof. If there is not, if failure, disagreed of notice, in case of owner fails, neglects or refuses to carry out the repair or improvement of an unsafe building or portion thereof, as specified in the notice, the building official shall cause the danger to be removed either by demolition or repair or of the building or portion thereof or other, the cost of which shall be borne by the owner. If an integrated industrial safety framework, it is very more helpful for us to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Thanks for those insights. Then our last panelist, Mr. Farid, Engineer Farid Ahmed, for the same question, the responsibilities of DIFE and how do you see their responsibilities within this overall industrial safety framework, and how do you think DIFE can integrate their work better with other ministries to ensure safety in industry? Over to you, Mr.
Thanks again, Mr. Fowler. To ensure the workplace safety, factory management is the responsible, but DIFE is the monitoring and implementing agency. To achieve a standard of safety and health in industries require a coordinated intervention from different private and public entities is very important, and it will be more effective approach. It will help the industries not only to develop waste culture but also to increase productivity. To improve working condition in the workplace, DIFE has established industrial safety unit with a limited scope. As per my understanding, with a specific terms and condition and with a standard operating procedure, ISU under DIFE is ready to work with other private and public agencies to ensure occupational safety and health in workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you. Okay, so we've posed a number of questions to the panelists in which we've tried to draw out some of the issues, and I think we saw that some of the issues that need to be dealt with in an industrial safety framework were brought out through that. But I'd like to open up to the floor now to see if there are any other questions that we could pose to the panelists here, which would help to bring out, clarify, or assist with the development of our industrial safety framework. Can you just raise your hand? Mr. Nahin Shahidullah in the front here.
Thank you very much. We are very much enlightened with the topic, very burning topic, that the safety and industrial safety. And the panelist is very, I suppose that we are benefited out of their talks. I just want to know something from the Chief Inspector of Boiler. We know that we are very happy to learn that in this year the Boiler Act has come up, to face the challenges. But what about the organogram of yours? Because we know that very meager number, I mean only possibly 6 inspectors you had for the whole country. And if it is, if you have increased, I'm sure that you cannot catch up the development of the industries. So what is your plan and how you want to cope up with this situation and how you are going to implement this very valuable document that is the Boiler Safety Act? Because we are very, in other sector also, we have very good documents, very good laws and rules and codes, but implementation is a problem. And I like to specifically ask you about how you plan to implement this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the question.
স্যার আপনাকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ স্যার আপনার এই বিষয়টা বলার জন্য। আমি স্যার আপনার অবগতির জন্য জানাচ্ছি, একটু বিস্তারিত বলবো স্যার। স্যার আমাদের অর্গানোগ্রামটা ছিল আসলে 6 জনের, একজন চিফ ইন্সপেক্টর আর 4 জন ইন্সপেক্টর, 5 জন অফিসার ছিল আমাদের। তো আলহামদুলিল্লাহ আমরা 2012 সালে সর্বপ্রথম 2 জন ইন্সপেক্টর পাই মাত্র, এবং 3টা আঞ্চলিক কার্যালয় হয় ঢাকা, চট্টগ্রাম, রাজশাহীতে। পরবর্তীতে স্যার আমি 2015-তে চিফ ইন্সপেক্টর জয়েন করেছি আল্লাহর রহমতে, আপনাদের দোয়ায়। তো আমি এসেই স্যার 350 জনবলের জন্য প্রস্তাব দিয়েছিলাম। তো সেটা 2019 সালে আমরা যেটা পেয়েছি 10টা আঞ্চলিক কার্যালয় পেয়েছি সমস্ত বিভাগীয় শহরে, এবং জেলা শহর আমাদের গাজীপুর, নারায়ণগঞ্জ এবং নরসিংদীতে অলরেডি আমরা 2021 সালের জানুয়ারিতে এস্টাবলিশ করেছি। আর আমাদের এখন স্যার এক্সিস্টিং অর্গানোগ্রামে ইন্সপেক্টর হচ্ছে 48 জন। অলরেডি স্যার আমরা 45 জনকে নিয়োগ দিয়েছি, যার মধ্যে 3 জন চলে গিয়েছে, এখন 42 জন রয়েছে। আর আমাদের 10 জন ডেপুটি চিফ ইন্সপেক্টর, তারা সমস্ত আঞ্চলিক কার্যালয়ে কাজ করছে। মোটামুটি স্যার আমরা যে পেয়েছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ আমাদের এখন এই কাজ করার জন্য তেমন সমস্যা নেই। তারপরেও স্যার আপনাদের অবগতির জন্য জানাচ্ছি, আমি রিসেন্টলি এই 1 সপ্তাহ আগে একটা অর্গানোগ্রামের প্রস্তাব দিয়েছি। আমাদের সচিব মহোদয়, মন্ত্রী মহোদয়ও বলেছেন আমরা এটাকে অধিদপ্তর করার জন্য, এবং আরও প্রত্যেকটা উইং, যেমন আমাদের স্যার শুধু বয়লার ইউজারদেরকে দেখতে হয় না, আপনি স্যার জানেন অনেক কিছু, যে প্রত্যেকটা ইন্ডাস্ট্রিতে তো বয়লার আছেই, এছাড়া আমাদের দেশে স্যার বয়লার তৈরি হচ্ছে। গত 12 বছরে আমরা প্রায় 2500 বয়লার, এই স্মল ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল বয়লার যেগুলো গার্মেন্টস বিভিন্ন জায়গায় তৈরি হয়, এগুলো প্রায় 2500 বয়লার আমরা তৈরি করেছি আমাদের ইন্সপেকশনে। অর্থাৎ এই ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং ইন্সপেক্টর এটা হচ্ছে আলাদা একটা অথরিটি, যেটার জন্য আলাদা উইং দরকার, আমরা আলাদা উইংয়ের জন্য প্রস্তাব দিয়েছি। আরও স্যার আপনি জেনে খুশি হবেন, আমাদের যে বয়লার অপারেটর, সেই বিধিতে অপারেটরের কোনো শিক্ষাগত যোগ্যতা বা কোনো কোয়ালিটি ছিল না, এবং সেখানে স্যার একবার সনদ দিলে সারা জীবনের জন্য, মানে তার যে আপগ্রেড, তার যে নতুন নতুন আধুনিক বয়লারের সঙ্গে যে তার ইন্ট্রোডিউসিং দরকার, এই বিষয়গুলি ছিল না। এগুলো আমরা প্রস্তাব দিয়েছি যে, এবং নতুন আইনে স্যার আপনি হয়তো দেখেছেন যে বয়লার অপারেটিং লাইসেন্স নামে আসছে, এবং এটা 5 বছর পর পর নবায়ন করতে হবে। এবং আমরা বিধি যেটা করব সেখানে শিক্ষাগত যোগ্যতা মিনিমাম এসএসসি দরকার, কারণ আধুনিক এই বয়লারগুলিতে যদি শিক্ষাগত যোগ্যতা কিছুই না থাকে তার পক্ষে সম্ভব না বয়লার অপারেট করা। তা আমরা স্যার এই জনবলের বিষয়ে অধিদপ্তর এবং আবারও 350 জনবলের প্রস্তাব দিয়েছি। আইন আমাদের আলহামদুলিল্লাহ হয়েছে, বিধি হয়তো 6 মাস বা 3 মাসের মধ্যে হয়ে যাবে। আমরা একটা পূর্ণাঙ্গ ইন্টারন্যাশনাল স্ট্যান্ডার্ড বয়লার কোড প্রণয়নের জন্য স্যার আইনে নিয়ে আসছি, এবং সেটা যদি হয় হয়তো আমাদের কিছু সময় লাগবে। আমাদের এই সবগুলো হয়ে গেলে আমার স্বপ্ন স্যার শুধু এই বিভাগীয় শহরে নয়, আমাদের যেখানে বয়লার আছে, যেমন বেজা, আমাদের বঙ্গবন্ধু শিল্প পার্ক মিরসরাই, সেখানে একটা অফিসের প্রস্তাব আছে। আমরা এরকম প্রত্যেকটা বেজাতে, বেবজাতে, এমনকি বিসিকে যেখানে মোর দেন 100 বয়লার আছে, সেখানেই আমরা একটা শাখা অফিস করব। এই ধরনের প্রস্তাব আমাদের আছে, যাতে আমরা সমগ্র বাংলাদেশের একেবারে নিরবিচ্ছিন্ন নিরাপত্তা দিতে পারি বয়লারের উপরে। সেই ধরনের লক্ষ্য নিয়ে আমি কাজ করছি। ধন্যবাদ স্যার।
Thank you, Mr. Manan. Thank you. Yes, I just want to also announce that feel free to ask your questions in Bangla if you want. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. I am Ali Ahmed Khan. Basically, I was also former DG Fire Service Civil Defense, and then now working as industrial safety compliance consultant, freelance. But however, I have one query regarding, because you know that BNBC has been published and this fire code is there, but there are a lot of inconsistencies in the rules and regulations, and there is somewhere, I think Director of Operation is also here, Fire Service Civil Defense, so also agree with me, because safety is everyone's business, and sometimes we find that if there is inconsistency between the safety, BNBC and fire code at the same time, and is being a lot of confusion who really plans and who design the whole safety plan, and an architect and others. So there's huge confusion regarding, suppose some places you have given the, on building some places because authority have jurisdiction, has a lot of, I think they have a power and they can do it. Some places they have given that fire extinguisher oblique hydrant, something like that, some places. And some places given auto fire suppression system or auto, I think this sort of system is some confusion, and this system has really downgraded the safety, and safety has been really disregarded, and there is a huge problem for the fire service civil. So in that case, I suggest that we need to revise the BNBC some places, or fire service civil defense, they should include in their code, and that will be also their rules, and then they can overcome this sort of, I think, confusion, and thereby they can, we can improve the safety, particularly on the fire aspects. These are one of my observations.
Okay, thank you. Is there a question you want to pose to the panelists? No question in there. Okay, if we move on to the next person there, and then the table, Raj, in the corner there. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to clarify something. Maybe I will have seek clarification from Mr. Mohammad Shah Alam and the Colonel Jillur, Director, Operation and Maintenance. Before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Colonel Mahfouz, retired, working for DBL Group as a safety and security management of the entire group. My small observation is that, in general, the Gazipur area is infested with many industries and very thick in number, especially the Kashimpur and the surrounding areas. And if you see, the road networks are very shabby. If I quote an example that in one incident, we called the fire service from Gazipur, but it took more than 45 minutes to come and reach to our location. So because of the road condition of that area. So when the industrial areas are being developed, side by side the road network should be developed equally so that the movement of the essential services can be reached within very short possible of time. This is one. And second point to Colonel Jillur is that in most of the cases it is seen that the complex of industrial complexes are full, most of the time remain filled up with the raw materials. Even the fire service vehicle reaches, they cannot even move inside because of those raw material piled up in the complexes. Do you have any policy or authority to check periodically and make sure that these are not piled up on the complexes where you cannot move inside when there is an emergency in any time? So my observation is that maybe because of the fact the warehouse capacity is less than the production. So it should be, as my understanding, it should have been 60-40, but it is otherwise 40-60. That's why the raw material being imported are kept scattered over the entire complex where even a small vehicle cannot move inside. So if you have anything to do, you can carry out survey and you can suggest the company authority or management to make sure that these are not there, which poses the serious fire safety hazard to the people and to the men and material as well. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a question or comments directed at Mr. Malik of Rajuk, or sorry, to Mr. Raman from.
Okay, maybe you name Mr. Shalam. Mr. Shalam not present here. I am Mohammad Arifur Rahman. So, okay, I understand. So, primarily I will discussed about the role of BIDA. BIDA now working as a coordinating body, already mentioned here, you know. So I think now BIDA already visited, inspected under the leadership of BIDA, more than 5,000 industries are visited and information collected. Now we analyzed this information and after formulating some recommendations, including your issues and many other issues regarding the working environment of industries and factories and also industrial areas. The recommendation will be forwarded to the National Committee headed by Honorable Advisor Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP. Then this committee will take the decision and they instructed to the BIDA and all other concerned agencies how can we work to develop the working environment of industries and factories. So I think some concept given to you, some message, not clear, but some message to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Mr. Malik, do you want to respond to the first question, I think it was? Was your first question directed at Mr. Malik, Rajuk?
No, actually, he asked me the question.
I was a bit,
okay, so at first I want to share a data with you, with all of you, that we have 18 crore people in Bangladesh and the strength or the manpower of fire service civil defense is only 13,000. So we have one firefighter for 35,000 people. So with this limitation, actually we are carrying out frequent inspection because we are making the priority. So priority goes to the industry and the less priority goes to the residential building. So following that rule, we are carrying out our routine inspection to all the industry because every year we issue the fire safety license. So as part of that, before issuing a fire safety license, our inspector go to the respective industry and make a comments, make a report and submit that report to the owner of the industry. So it is there, it is going on, it is a routine job of fire service civil defense. And in case of a fire, for example, you have cited an example of a fire incident. So after each fire, we also initiate a fire incident report. So those reports are there, but now responsibility goes to the owner of the industry. Because according to building code, the owner of the building or the user of the building, they have the main responsibility to ensure fire safety. And if there is a fire incident, it is not the fire service civil defense who will come first and deal with the fire. Rather, it is the occupants of the house or building or industry who is responsible to deal the fire initially. So they are actually the first responder. And regarding your question regarding the storage capacity, actually it is not always good to impose the law by force because there is a responsibility by the owners as well that they should maintain safety and security first, and government agencies will go and give them the suggestions and we will impose the rule and law. So the government agencies, we are doing our responsibility, but at the same time, if the private sector, they do not follow the instruction by from the government agencies, then the aim of this today's session, the industrial fire safety will not be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Zuli Rahman. I think our next question there was Mr. Raj Sharia from North South University.
Okay, thank you. I'm representing academia, so my question is related to academia. Probably 2 years back, DIFE contact with me regarding some academic activities. Till date, I haven't heard from them. We have committed on several things to cooperate them to establish some curriculum and other things. That's one thing to the question to the DIFE. Why so? It's a very straightforward question. The second is, unfortunately, I am also graduated from BUED, but but I haven't learned a single word from BUET about safety. That's my frustration till today. That's the way it works. That's very sad. I haven't learned a single word from BUET. Whatever I learned, 2.5 feet width of fire safety stair, which is invalid today. That's my learning. So that's my frustration. And the second thing is, regarding, we have number of universities. So far, I am an architect, so I know there are 18 architecture schools in Bangladesh, and there are a number of graduates that are graduating every year, and none of the school teach them anything related to safety. We are making buildings, we are designing buildings, we are designing the structures, but we don't know the safety codes. So how today we have learned many things about hardware, many things about inter-department cooperation between governments, but who is going to design it? We, but I don't know anything. That's the plain and simple thing. So, and none of the, it means in any discussion, I haven't found single word about how to educate people. Here we have seen some keywords, safety culture. Culture comes from the education, not from the implementation. That's my word. So my question to the DEFI, when we are going to see some light regarding cooperation with public, private, academia to ensure people, to teach them what is safety and how to build up culture. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that out. That's a very important point you brought out. Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Farid Ahmed? Or Mr. Malik?
Actually, BNBC by SBRI conducted them, and BUET teacher involved in this session, in this preparation. So actually, awareness, preparedness is very necessary, and knowledge is very important. As he said, the knowledge is very important. I am also BUETian. He is also BUETian. None of us known any safety rule. Actually, in our syllabus, in the beach engineering syllabus, we need to a safety issue, and BNBC also a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Mr. Ahmed, yes, could you respond?
Thank you for the questions, but I am also from the BUET. I was the mechanical engineering department. I have a little bit syllabus about BLA in my management course. From the BUET senior people, you know, Lalmia sir, he was our teacher. And of course, it is a little bit syllabus, but in my life, it is a big career now. Of course, it is dependent on subject to subject and department to department. Nowadays, BUET introduce short course or diploma course on WASH. It is helpful, and so many young people are going there. And at per my knowledge, some of the private university also developed master's course on occupational safety and health. Of course, if I am interested, I have to learn something anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I would
Farid.
like to add something. Just to inform the forum, I would like to inform the forum that Fire Service Civil Defense has taken the initiative to introduce a one-year diploma course on fire science. And especially those who are working in the industrial sector, they are the primary students, and we have started our first diploma in 2022. It is going on, and the certification is given by the National University. And very soon, this one-year diploma will be converted into a master's program. So the Bangladeshi interested students, they can participate with this program and they can learn about the fire safety. Besides that, in order to improve the safety and security of the industry, we have 2 6-month-long sort of diploma course, which is called the Managerial Safety. The certification is given by the Technical Board of Bangladesh. So these 2 educational program is already going on, And I'm sure those who are industrialists, they know that some of their employees already, they have already received the training from Fire Service Civil Defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Zilaraman. Yeah, and I think what this has brought out is that education, training, awareness raising must play a big part in the industrial safety framework. But just before, Raj, you respond to that, let's see if there are any other questions on other topics.
One brother came up with the architect brother, he came up with some frustration, but there is some encouraging news also, because under World Bank, actually, International Code Council is developing the capacity building of Rajuk, particularly structural engineers, as well as the next plan they will help for accreditation for architects, and where they will able to help them to improve the structural safety while designing at the same time fire safety. So there will be huge, and they will work with the IEB also, Institute of Architects Bangladesh, IBA, at the same time, and also planners. So gradually, these two programs will be coming up in the next phase under the World Bank projects. So where the architect will be, they will be integrated, and there will be inclusion of the training program with the Institute of Architects to develop the capacity, particularly on the safety issues, both covering structurals, how to design a safe structural building, at the same time fire safety, electrical safety. These will be covered up, I think. So I think good thing. Under DIFE as one of the institutions coming up also, Nostri, and they are developing the Rajshahi, already infrastructure has been come up. Now they are working with this particular organogram to develop the overall all type of safety will be included in their training institute. So things are developing gradually. Let's hope for the best. But individually we have to work together and with all other agencies to improve the safety issues actually, where the ILO and at the same time CPD organizing seminar, this is a good forum to, I think, interact ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those comments. And yes, we're hearing about a lot of great initiatives that are being launched or started already. So I think it points to the importance of having this type of forum where we can identify all these initiatives and try and get them to a coordinated approach with all of them directed at safety in the workplace. Raj, did you want to come in again?
I'm sorry that I sound a bit frustrated, but actually I'm not frustrated because I'm heading a institute that offers 24 safety modules in North-South University. That's EHS Plus. There are only 3 EHS Plus in the world, and North-South has the one in Bangladesh, and the other one is in India, and the other one is China. So we are not frustrated. My frustration is that why there is a gap between public and private. That's the main point. Whenever we get fund from World Bank, we start something new. Why not we establish something we already have? So for an example, the fire safety department, he said that they are offering diploma. And BARC will never do the diploma again. So better why not inbuild something with our curriculum. So when I get graduated, I already know what I should know. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. And earlier we did talk about the exploring how government could work together with private sector on safety. You've introduced that on the educational side as well, and so it's a good point. Does anybody in the panel want to respond to that? If not, we'll just go to the floor again. There's a question right at the back there. Mozam.
Yes, George. I have just one simple, very, very general questions to the panelists. We discussed about the coordination of different public agencies, safety-related agencies. My point is that who will actually take the lead in this coordination process? Because individual organizations have their own mechanism of doing their things, but they need to have an agency to take a lead role there. The panelists, what they think, which organization actually play this lead role?
Thanks for that, Mazen. And I would pose that question to BIDA, because I think you were alluding to the fact that you are coordinating safety with different ministries. Do you see BIDA taking a future role in that as the organization which coordinates different ministries?
Okay, thank you. You know that BIDA already has been taken the leadership to inspection of the factories throughout the countries. So, another initiative, 24 members national committee has been constituted, and ultimately the BIDA working on behind for this committee, and another subcommittee for convened by the executive chairman of Bangladesh Investment Development Authority. So the running activities of factory inspections and development of working environment in the factories, BIDA take the leadership, and Prime Minister Office instructed the BIDA to take the leadership and work with the FBCCI, BGMEA, DIFE, that means government and private organizations. So it's clear now working BIDA as a coordinating body. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add a
Yep,
small
come in.
point. If I want to add something with the answer, that to my understanding about the coordination, I think that coordination is not the problem regarding the safety. Once we talk about the safety, it is not the coordination, rather it is the implementation. In case of Bangladesh, if I talk about the industrial safety, the owner of the safety or the management of the safety, they already know what is their weakness. Now, we are initiating letters from various government agencies. They are receiving the instruction time to time, but they are not implementing. So, to my understanding on the subject of safety, coordination among the government agencies is lesser problem rather than implementation of the and installation of the safety equipments in the industry is the major problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And we're going to be looking at the employer's responsibilities in the next section. So, yeah, that will be explored in a lot more detail than the session. We're focusing on the responsibilities of the public institutions. Are there further questions there? At the, sorry, behind you first. Yeah, I'll come back to you next.
Thank you very much. I must congratulate and thanks ILO and CPD for arranging this first industrial safety forum for the very first time in Bangladesh. My question to BIDA directly that they are actually telling us that they are coordinating national levels. Are they coordinating both formal sector and informal sectors, or they are just concentrating on the formal sectors? And I'm very much happy today that we started thinking out of the box in these sessions, that we started thinking from RMG since long, but today's sessions we have discussed out of RMG. So this is my question to BIDA, that whether they are actually concentrating on informal sectors in Bangladesh as well. Thank you.
Thank you. A very important question. Do you want to take that, Mr. Raman?
BIDA just starting the activities regarding working environment in the factories and commercial organization. Initially, we are working for the under a national committee, and we just now inspected the factories phase by phase, primarily we just inspected 5,000 factories, and our targeted number of factories for approximately 46,000, except RMG and export-oriented factories. So, time will say how we'll make the recommendation, or national committee will take decisions how we can work in future. And representative from fire service also already mentioned that coordination does not more important than the implementation is the main issue. So I think you can add something.
I would like to add just one point, that if you see that especially all the industries, actually they are doing the business, and the trade license is not given by BIDA, fire service, or anybody, by Rajuk. The trade license is given by either Paurashobha or the city corporation. So they have the responsibility. I'm not sure whether the representative of city corporation is here or not. But if a industry is not fulfilling the requirements, government requirements, one very easy solution is to stop their trade license. And trade license is given by the city corporation. So we are carrying out our regular inspection, but if the city corporation is not doing the same inspection, so and at the same time they are providing the trade license, so they will continue doing their trade and business, and the safety and security will not be ensured. So all the government agencies who all are responsible for providing any sort of permits, all should carry out the inspections. Thank you.
Thanks for that. And you mentioned the implementation, the importance of implementation, but you also alluded to coordination there, because you do need that coordination between what the different agencies are doing.
In my first speech, I told that once somebody is not following the rules and regulations, their operation in some cases should be stopped. And primarily it can be stopped by the city corporation or Paurashobha, as they are allowing them to for permit by giving the trade license or similar things. So their trade can be temporarily blocked unless they follow the rules and regulations. That was my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Feroz wanted to ask a question there as well. Get behind you there.
So I don't have a question, but something has come to my head by this important discussion today. I can see that this type of seminar, workshop, is very, very important for everybody, either for the employers or the employees or for the general public. We need safety from our cradle to grave. Our mothers teach us safety in the early age. Then we can see everywhere we can do it. I happen to be in the world's largest gas company, European company, BOC, which is now called Linde. We have seen, I'm not a technical person, but we have seen the importance of the safety. Every floor we have to employ 2 people to inspect all these, electrical, all other gadgets, everything, every week. And if something is serious, take that action immediately. Don't wait for the monthly meeting. Then we have to have a monthly coordination meeting. That's what we did, the factories, we can see. And the thing is here, I can see the factory owners, they should understand what is due diligence. They should understand first, so that even they cannot escape out. Then at that time, the same seminar, same awareness program, you also call the laborers, workers, together in the same table, in the same place. Side by side, you make them to sit and see that, because this will also work as a check and balance. What you have discussed, what they have done, what they have not done. Another thing is this, the question should be like this. Another thing, that is the factory for making products or killing people? That's the mark. This simple question, tick mark, keep it. Is it for the factory for killing people? Because we can see some henchmen are always there, here and there, everywhere in the world. They are the one who is just to please their boss illegally, they close the doors, they are talking about their products, they are not talking about the human life. So these are the things I want. Another thing is this is happening mostly for corruption, one or other way. We can just surprise, I want to see that, that what is the tall building, what is the low building? We don't know. How come it can happen? Who will take the responsibility? When you ask a big government official, they say there is the government matter. Who is the government? Once, one of the biggest secretary, in a seminar, he was talking about the pension matter. If the family pension matter, wife has to take the certificate that she has not got married, even at the age of 80, then she will get the pension. This thing has been simplified. We have simplified it now. So then I was asking them, why don't you correct it? He was the cabinet secretary. And who will take the responsibility? Correct it. He was saying that my wife and my 80 years old wife has to take a certificate that she has not got married at this age, then she will get the pension, this kind of thing. And he said, these are the things we have stopped. Things are now better. Another thing is here that about the compensation for the death or the accident in the factory. It's peanut, just peanut. Immediately correct the law and put it implemented. Not that in the paper. Transfer the decision from paper to practical life. So now there's 49 people who were killed. It is intentional. And the consumer should also understand they should avoid this kind of product, those who are corrupt. Young people don't get married to the corrupt man's daughter or son. Don't invite them in the workshop seminar and other places because they have stolen the money for this purpose. If you give them salam, they will all be more corrupt.
Yeah.
In one seminar, I was one of the resource person, another guy was the resource person, he was a very known corrupt man. I said, excuse me, sir, I'll not.
Okay.
I'll not
Mr.
participate
Feroz,
because if the corrupt man is going to deliver a lecture against corruption, people will be more corrupt. Thank you, sir. Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks for those messages on safety culture, and it went a bit beyond what we're discussing today. I think we should bring the session to an end then. There's just one observation I want to make, maybe a question, and we can discuss it after lunch, or over lunch. Mr. Malik there was talking about Rajuk and all the responsibilities and powers that they had on addressing safety issues in buildings and powers to close buildings. And then the next session, it was Mr. Farid. He started talking about the ISU and what they're doing from Ministry of Labour on building safety issues. I saw you exchanging cards afterwards, so I just wondered, are you discussing how Rajuk and the Industrial Safety Unit can collaborate in promoting building safety issues in industry? So I don't know if you want to have a quick response now before we close for lunch, or are you discussing how you can collaborate? Because if you aren't, I think that's one of the things, if that comes out of this forum, that would be an important point.
Actually, Rajuk is the planning organization and development control for the next issue. If you know the detailed area plan for the safe life, for environment-friendly township, so Rajuk, as well as development control is the main function. And this function done by him after all obtaining permission from the others organization. So final permission from the Rajuk. So Rajuk is the leading organization for the development control. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think we'll leave it at that, and we can carry on the discussions over lunch. But let's have a break for lunch now, and then we'll come back later for the second session, which will deal with the employer responsibilities in the workplace. Thanks to the panel for all of your contributions and your responding to the questions, and to all the participants for those questions. We'll carry on again at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock we'll reconvene to carry out the next session. Thank you. Bye-bye.